Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tomes and Tales with your friends, the Mischief of Mice. We're just a group of friends across the world that like to hang out and talk about and read graphic novels. So, start off with, I'm Valen. Hi everybody. And we have Kashka,
Hello.
we have Helen,
Hello.
and we have Lilac SC.
Hello.
So, as you saw from the cover, our discussion topic today is going to be Low, Volume 1, The Delirium of Hope. So, this was Helen's pick. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Yeah, Hannah's got it up on the screen there. It's really cool if you could tilt it a little bit there. You
Oh
can
yeah.
see like
Yeah.
how it's got the glossy and the matte cover on it. It's really awesome. I love that. Sorry. Okay, Helen, why don't you tell us a little bit about the book before we start discussing?
Sure. So it's set in the distant future, and the sun has been expanding and has irradiated the Earth, and humanity has kind of taken refuge in the depths of the sea. So they are in these shielded cities, and they initially sent some probes out to kind of look around the universe, see if there's anywhere to live. And after tens of thousands of years, a single probe has returned. It crashes on Earth's surface, which is now an alien place that no human has seen for millennia. And the main character, Stell, and her husband, Joel, the last helmsman of the once great city of Slaus, I think that's how you pronounce that, I'm not sure, must rise from the depths of mankind's despair and journey to the surface in search of salvation. So it's kind of post-apocalyptic, futuristic stuff, which I really enjoy. A little bit about the author, Rick Remender. He did Black Science and Deadly Class. He's also done a bunch of other stuff, which is really cool. He was an animator on Anastasia and Titan AE and the Iron Giant and Rocky and Bullwinkle. He's done writing for Marvel, for Captain America, The Uncanny Avengers, X-Force, Punisher, and Venom. He's also written a bunch of books by himself and done artwork for bands' albums, the most notable of which, at least in my knowledge, is NoFX. So he's got a wide range of skills. And then Greg Tocchini, I think is how you pronounce that, is the artist. And he has done a lot of stuff as well. They've worked together on a couple things, one of which is The Last Days of American Crime, which was done for Radical Comics. Greg has also done a bunch of stuff for Marvel and Dark Horse. So lots of talent going on there.
Yeah, that's quite impressive, actually. I didn't know all of that.
Quite the bibliography on both of them.
And as a disclaimer, for those that may or may not have read this novel, we will be openly discussing the entire plot, and also it's very graphic. There's nudity, there's swearing, there's lots of violence and blood, so not for the young ones, perhaps?
No, not so much.
All right. So,
So, okay, stupid sidebar, right? Not related to the book at all. But every time I hear Dark Horse, I think of, oh, what is it? Brian, help me out with,
MPH.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Horrible.
Dr.
funny
Thank
'cause,
you, Dr. Horrible sing-along vlog. Him going, bad horse. So every single time somebody says Dark Horse, in my head it's like, bad horse.
Dark Horse may have done the one shot for Dr. Horrible.
Really?
I
That's
didn't
amazing.
remember, but I have it. I can look at it later.
That's
See if I
amazing.
did. Because they do a lot of Joss Whedon's, like Buffy and The Fray. I think Dark Horse did all those.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. I didn't know there was a one shot for Dr. Horrible either. That's kind of cool.
Oh, it's really funny too,
Yeah.
and it has a penny storyline also, but that's all side.
It's gonna be
Dr. Horrible
editorial.
aside, which I love.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool.
Just a little tangent there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Alright. So back to our regularly scheduled programming.
So I'm just gonna jump out and really quick say that the cover can be a little confusing to look at, but if you use the glossy versus matte, there we go, you can actually see an upside down form of a human, this being the head, an arm coming up here, and we've got the torso going into the legs. It was a little bit difficult for at least me to see when I first saw it. I thought that I couldn't tell anything except for I saw the face with a little like a tentacle wrapped around it.
Flip it upside down, and actually you can see like the person a lot easier when you
Yeah,
flip it
they look
upside
like
down.
they're just sitting on a coral reef with tentacles wrapped around them at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the whole setting is pretty much underwater, post-apocalyptic, underwater, futuristic craziness. But yeah, just saying that real quick. So I'm going to ask a quick question of you, Helen. What was it that drew you to this novel to begin with?
Honestly, the cover. I saw the cover and I was like, well, that looks interesting, like with all the tentacles and like there's some like fishy guys over here, and then this guy down here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like just all different kinds of detail, a lot of which I wouldn't say you don't see on covers, but I find it to be less common. Most of the graphic novels and comics that I read generally have starker covers, bold stuff, and like as you were talking about how you couldn't necessarily tell that it was a human initially, you just saw the helmet. I find that intriguing. Like that, like I saw the helmet as you did, and I was like, well, that's weird. Why is there a helmet with a head in it just in the middle of the cover?
Yeah.
So I started looking at it, and like each little thing I saw drew me in further and further. And then I read the back, and I did the flip test to look at the artwork, which is another point. But yeah, it sounded so interesting, and as soon as I started reading it, I was just completely hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how the a lot of the outfits that the characters wear tend to be very organic feeling. Like how when people were first learning about like the Alien movie series and how there was like it seemed like metal hallways, but then it would have like an organic surface over top of it. You know, but it seemed like almost lifelike, or like a skin, or different colors on a person instead of an actual suit that she's wearing. So I thought that was really cool. I mean, it's very futuristic. It lends itself really well to that in my mind.
Yeah, and the artwork in general, just as a quick aside, I find it to be absolutely fascinating. There's some panels where it's so spare, and it's just colors and the illusion of emotions on a face, or just a quick sketch of an eye and a mouth. And then there's other panels where it's so detailed and there's so much stuff going on, especially when you start getting into the city scenes.
Oh yeah.
And you can just spend like 10 minutes looking at all the different characters and different species and different sexual positions, if that's your thing.
Yes. I have to say that's the one thing where when you say there were busy panels or cells, yeah, and there were definitely like busy pages where it's just like, okay, that's an orgy.
Yeah, there's a lot of sex, but like there's a shark man and there's merman and mermaids.
Yeah, but they're not in the sex though. Just to differentiate. Sorry.
I mean, I think they talk about sex. There's like a shark character. Well, maybe he's not a shark. I don't know. He's got a weird face, and he's talking about sex. I don't actually know what kind of creature he's supposed to be, but he's in like a little bowler hat with glasses and a cigar.
When you describe him like that, he sounds adorable.
I think he's got like a big fake heart tattoo on one arm as well.
That's even more adorable.
So, talking about outfits, going back a little bit, one of my favorite is the diving suits.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it so it doesn't glare. Yeah, that. Just like the fins and I mean, the way that they did a lot of the stuff to make it look like it's underwater and to make it look like it's actually people that have lived underwater for a long time, to me, is just phenomenal. I really like it, in case you can't tell. That's the reason I picked it. Shocking, I know.
Total.
You didn't pick something you hated. Wow. No, but
Next
the diving
time.
suit.
Next
It's not quite April Fool's. We passed that. But I did like on the diving suit, all the extra fins, like you're talking about. It's like
Yeah.
Mr. Greg Tocchini or Tocchini really put a lot of thought into how he illustrated the futuristic world that they live in. Massive props there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, does anybody have any like topics or questions or anything that they want to start off with? I mean, I have a small list this time, but I
Oh
figured.
God. Well, let's do one of yours then.
All right. Let me get my list here. Let's see here. All right. I'll start with so the lead is a mother of 3 children, and one of which is a boy. His name is Merrick, and he goes through quite the transformation in this, from an innocent to the exact opposite, back to, I don't know, some redeeming factor possibly. I guess my question is, by the end of the book, do you feel, or by the end of Merrick, do you feel he has redeemed himself from where he was? Because I know that at one point he got low.
So, okay, and I'm going to come back to that actually in a minute. But did he redeem himself? I kind of feel like he did. I feel like he saved lives in the end of his little band of cohorts and his mother and sister. So,
Mhm.
I agree. I thought he redeems himself quite well, especially like the mini story arc that they did for the old man when they're fighting and he's kind of protecting him
Yeah.
and bolstering his confidence when they're in the arena in the like gladiator fights. I thought that really showed his kind of 180 from the weird sex that he was having and the drugs and all that stuff. And trying to commit suicide. I mean, he clearly had a lot of issues. And he wasn't just a simple character that they were using to propel the mother's story. I thought that he was very complex and that he lent himself well to furthering the story.
yeah, definitely. I feel like as I'm furthering the story, for me, he was like the constant. I mean, him and his mum were like the constant in the story, and the story was following them, actually, more than anything.
Yeah.
I do like that there was no fear in this for them to actually just kill off the character. I feel he could still have gone further, but I feel he would have then started dominating the comic, and that probably would have, I don't know, just diverted the comic's purpose in my mind. So I think his death was actually a necessity, though if he would have survived, I have a feeling that he would not have been well mentally. I think he probably would have ended up suffering more for the past that he had done. It seemed he needed a direct and immediate purpose to drive him, and the situation he was put into ended up doing that. And he was able to make this transformation. But if he were to actually obtain things so that it was under control, he probably would he have started reverting back? Due to boredom or uncertainty or whatever. I guess he feels there's a hope at this point, with the whole returning of the drone and his mom saving him from his low point. Yes, I'm gonna keep using the low pun.
Well, so that's actually, um, sorry, that's one thing that I noticed a lot throughout the book was that I think the word low is used excessively, which is kind of interesting. Maybe it's just me, but I seem to notice it like constantly as I was reading. It was. Anybody else notice that, or is that just me?
No, it's got a lot of use actually, and I mean from different ways as well. Low being how people end up losing hope and just their own personal lows to the fact that they're at the bottom of the freaking ocean. So they're at a very low point, physically as well as mentally. I mean, how bad can it be when you haven't seen the surface of the earth in millennia and lost all hope and you're at the bottom of the ocean and suffocating.
So
Yeah,
humanity's at a low point.
indeed. Yes. And they've just gone to like this Caesarean Caligula type thing where it's all just orgies and death and they're all gonna die. Yeah. But don't worry,
Drug.
not that sad of an animal. Drugs
Well,
too.
that's kind of the thing for me. Like, and I think that's one of the things that I really like about it is that it's everybody in the book kind of has their low point, and you see Malik reach the low point, and you see his mom reach the low point, and you see his sister, well, one of his sisters, reach her low point, and like you see all of these people just kind of working through their stuff, but it's not sad. Like at no point did I feel really sad. I mean, I was touched by Malik's death. I thought that that was
Mm-hmm.
interesting, and especially that he was killed in a similar fashion to his father.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't. It really was about hope for me. Like the way that his mom teaches him hope, and the way that she kind of loses it and then regains it, and like for me, it was, even though it's about people reaching their low point and humanity reaching their low point, both literally and emotionally, um, it wasn't depressing. It was uplifting. Maybe I'm alone in that, but I thought it was uplifting.
I'll say the book as a whole, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But if you're breaking the book into sections and you just start reading like the first quarter or something, it's kind of depressing. I mean, it's like here's this nice family that's learning this thing that they're trying to save the planet, and how then the narrator, which is the father at the time, is like talking about how wonderful his wife is, and then they end up getting into this terrible situation. Father dies, kids are stolen, mom is left. It just kind of goes downhill, and then things just look really bad at their own home. Everybody's lost hope, and her son is, just kind of gone off the deep edge. And I actually stopped at that point the first time I read this book, and I was like, this book's kind of depressing. I don't know, I don't know. And then it was like just by chance, because it was several days before I ended up reading it again. But just by chance, I picked it up, and I think Kashka had actually finished reading somewhere in between there, and then I picked it up again, and I just happened to look at like one of the pages upcoming, and I was like, "Whoa, that looks cool." And so then I picked it back up again and read it. And yes, I've read this more than once, but I picked it back up again because of that. And then it was like all I had to do was just go one more page, and I would have been, all set. So don't stop if you get to a low point in the book. Just keep going, and it gets much better. Really
So
cool.
what you're saying is that the author took you to the brink, and actually the first time he kind of like pushed you over the brink a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting. I mean, maybe everybody's kind of line for that brink is a bit different. But going back to what you were saying, Helen, I think that, and that's without the strength of the, I can't, wait, is her name Sten, right? The mother?
Stell.
Stell, sorry. Without the strength of Stell's optimism, I think the book would be locked. I think it would just be too depressing. So, her optimism is like, along with Eric's kind of like despair, those two are like battling forces throughout the first part of the book.
And they set her up at the beginning to be that person. I feel like the book was about her struggle, and then everybody else was kind of a extra character. They even, like in the first few pages, talk about how optimistic she is, and that she's kind of the one to watch. So when Herrick ate it, I was like, well, I don't really expect anyone to live except for Belle. The one really super depressing part for me, although I was never pushed over the brink, I like ate this novel up in a night, was when her daughter, I can't remember her name, but one of her daughters she finds and is trying to help and like turns on her. That really sucked.
Yeah.
A lot, because like her situation, the daughter's situation was awful. And for that to happen, I mean, granted, I think at this point maybe the girl has spent half of her life with her parents and half of her life in this other, horrible place, and kind of her formative years is that like 10 and on, she has been like a sex slave and doing all these things. So she's pretty much been brainwashed into doing whatever and compelled to do whatever her captors want her to do. And so then her mom comes in, and she doesn't turn it around right away, which you wish she would, but that was the really depressing part for me.
Yeah, it kind of set the stage when Merrick was like, come on, we're saving you, and she's like, oh my gosh, where have you guys been? And he's like, well, we didn't expect to find you. We're going after this, crashed satellite instead.
Yeah.
So hurry up and let's go. It's like, screw you. She literally kind of just said that and like threw something and hit him over the head. Goes to show he wasn't exactly in the best place at that point.
Not so much.
All right, so does anyone else have another one before I end up just hogging the whole stage with all these questions I have?
I want to talk about this art. The art is what sucked me in and kept me going through the whole thing. They yes, it is underwater, but lots of like deep greens, blues, in different areas. They change. So like, in the first part, it's like this light kind of. This is what their area looks like. They're sitting now, and then it goes when her and Merrick leave. It goes deep, like what Valen is showing, and then when they're in like trouble, it goes red. It's just so much. I loved it. It was just amazing. The coloring and the illustration. It was just.
There's
awesome.
a lot of red. A lot of red.
Yeah. I thought that this whole book was just a work of art. And really complemented the story well and made it just that much more awesome for me. It was really an enjoyable read. I would say more so for the art, but I really like the story too. So
even the panel arrangement, I think, is clever. Like that. panel that Valen just showed where the red and the faces are separated. So yeah, the whole book. You're right. I think the whole book is a piece of art. I actually need to go look and see what else this artist did because
Yeah.
I would definitely consume more.
I'm right there with
More.
I'm always
And it
about
even
the art.
melts into the
So.
cover, like what Helen was saying, where the cover kind of sucks you in. Yeah, when I ordered it and I got it in, that is a very intriguing cover, and it doesn't, let you down at all throughout the
Mhm.
whole thing. And I'm kind of looking at the next one.
That's a
They
good
have the
point.
second volume, and it looks like it's pretty colorful and pretty too. I haven't read it yet, but
That's a good point. A lot of the time, the cover doesn't always match what's inside the book, but it definitely does in this case.
yeah.
Is volume 2 the same artist?
Volume 2 has Tocchini
Yeah,
and
that's the same guy.
McCaig. I'm not sure what McCaig. Maybe McCaig is a colorist. Not sure, but still, these are colorful panels.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So I'm very much looking forward. Although, for those who don't know, oh, I was talking about this earlier. Volume 1 is this thick. Volume 2 is this thick.
Yeah,
So
volume 2 is quite a
there's
bit
a definite
smaller.
difference.
Yeah.
It's a lot
I would say
crazier though.
volume 1 is like double the size, thickness of volume 2, which I was a little disappointed about. I wanted a lot more story. But you know what? Who knows? Maybe they packed a whole bunch of story in that
I
small.
wonder if they split the issues up differently.
No.
May have to
I feel
research
like
that.
volume 2 gets a lot crazier.
Oh,
And
really?
you see I'm trying not to give anything away.
Yeah, because there are several of us that haven't actually read that yet.
I know.
Tend to just.
You see some different, like in volume 1 when you see them go to the third city. In volume 2 you see different aspects of humanity and how they're surviving in this underwater apocalypse type thing. So for me, I thought it was really, really awesome, and I really enjoyed it. But I just devoured both of these. Kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I will. Usually, I'm all about the one that mentions the art on this, so I was kind of happy that somebody else brought it up. It's very dirty, gritty. That's
Yeah.
it, gritty art.
I
I mean,
don't you
look
feel
look
like
at that. I mean, it's very Tank Girl feeling, but yet it's kind of like old school heavy metal type art. Boris Vallejo type. It's really good. It's I don't know. It's just stylized and
don't you think though that post-apocalyptic stuff has to be gritty? That's almost like a requirement. I don't know that I've ever seen like a nice, clean, smooth kind of post-apocalyptic.
how about Lazarus?
Mm,
That was
It's
fairly
got
clean.
grit. That first
Yeah, yeah.
page or two.
I mean, it's got some gritty scenes, but I don't think that the artwork is necessarily gritty.
mm,
But I still think it pulls it off quite well.
mhm.
I think when you see smooth lines and this and that, you equate that with control. And with apocalyptic stuff, no one has control.
That's very true.
Just to backtrack a second, Lilac, you were right. The volumes have a different number of issues in each of them.
Oh, they do? Oh,
I
okay.
believe there's 6 issues in volume 1, and only like 4 or 5 in volume 2. I didn't get all the way through counting, but so they are definitely split up differently. That's why there's the
Well,
size
that kind of makes me happy.
But you know what? Like the first one, I think if they had ended it in any other place, it would have felt a little
difference.
Like it ended in a good place with the first one.
Yeah.
So, if they had to add a few issues, that may have been the choice for
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You gotta
And
think about like the sequence and the rhythm of it when you split it
yeah,
between volumes.
Yeah.
the second one starts in a completely different place, so it gives not necessarily a different feel to it, but if they had like stopped volume 1 at issue 5 and then started volume 2
Mm,
and like it would have been weird. The way they split it, I think, is the best way they could have.
gotcha.
Cool.
Well, very much looking forward to it.
Burning a hole in your pocket.
Yeah, well, it already has. This has come out of it. But Helen, do you know who McCaig is? Is that another illustrator?
I think he's another illustrator.
Another
I
illustrator.
think Rick Remender is the only writer, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna pop in with another question off my massive list here. All right, so let me actually, I gotta get the name right here. I wrote it
Go on,
down.
Question Master.
What is Grom? And if you don't know who he is, he's this guy here that looks like a giant version of one of the goblins from Labyrinth. He's got like the skull face, the giant suit of armor, and
Oh, yeah.
even when you see him in the book, like they do this close up of his face when he's got his helmet off and stuff. I was just like, what the what? I mean, I understand that this is a very futuristic novel, so a lot of it they don't even have to explain or show or whatever. But I mean, what the heck? Is he like a
Are you talking
machine?
about?
Is he undead? I mean, he's got a skull for a face, for crying out loud.
He's
Oh,
like an
he's-
animated skeleton.
Oh, you
I
want?
think he's part like mechanized. I
I'm gonna
think
show a screen while you talk.
That's actually what I was gonna look for. Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah, you can
picture of
see
his
it.
face where he's got like two burning hot coals for eyes?
so. Like earlier in when they get to the third city and they're showing like some of those complicated scenes that I was mentioning earlier.
hmm
I think if I can find it, you see that like some people are like partially mechanized and have
Oh,
like robotic.
yeah, and his brother says like that he's mechanized on the inside and that Grom is mechanized on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then how does he? So then is the skeleton face thing like mechanical then, or is that all that's left of his face? Or
I think that might be all that's left.
Well, see that actually brings me to the next part of the question is like he's like, yeah, hold on a second, let me click here. All right, it was beautiful above, wasn't it? I wonder if they ever appreciated it. The voices, the sea life, endlessly buzzing and chirping in my head. If we were on the surface, would I stop hearing them? I believe so. You've suffered greatly, Grom. Hold on a bit longer. We'll walk the surface, breathe crisp air, sleep under starlight. How are you supposed to breathe crisp air? It's like they're talking about describing all these sensations and stuff when, I mean, the guy's a walking mechanized skeleton, right? I don't know. It threw me right there. I was like, maybe there's more to him than just this mechanical outside and
I feel like he's got like an exoskeleton going on, but still has some biological function on the inside.
Mm.
He's
Also,
squishy on the inside.
doesn't he have like
Like
some
a cream
psychic
egg.
powers?
Cream egg.
Yeah, he can actually communicate with sea life to
Yeah.
some extent. Yeah, he can control them or influence them in different ways.
And there was one cell that I wasn't certain of between Grom and his brother, where the dialogue was in a dashed bubble.
Mhm.
And I wasn't sure if they were actually communicating telepathically or if they were just whispering to each other. Because their heads are kind of bent together, but if he's already got telepathic abilities, is it just with marine life? Or is it with his brother in marine life, or?
Oh, no, it's definitely not just with marine life, because he tells that guy to backstab Marek, right?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
you're right.
yeah.
So he can talk to. Perhaps he was telepathically communicating with his brother, but his brother has to, like, whisper back or whatever.
Yeah. I just thought it was really interesting because, yeah, he's this giant mechanized robot with a skull face, and he's telepathic.
Surprise!
Well, it
Not to
also
mention his giant gun arm.
right.
That's there too.
I mean,
I kind of want to be Grom suddenly.
yeah, until you see this part, and then you're like, oh my gosh, and she's like climbing up, shooting in the suit, and I was like, wait a minute, didn't you say he's like soft and squishy on the inside and metal on the outside? And I was like, how come he didn't die from this? She inserted the gun into his suit and shot, like, I mean, bam, 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 bam. So I was really thrown by both Grom and his brother, Rolm, which I thought was kind of funny. They both seem like they're practically indestructible. I mean, Rolm ends up getting skewered several times. He's had a spear go through his chest. I don't know how many times, 2 or 3 times. He had like the diving suit fingers go through his entire body. And yet he's supposed to be some sort of like Terminator type character because he's more fleshy on the outside and machine on the inside. But I
He's
don't know.
Borg.
Yeah. Borg.
Can we just mention his eyes?
Wait,
Rom's eyes.
Groms?
No, his brother.
Rom.
Rom.
I mean,
Let's see.
All right, let's see. Oh, how they're red with black.
they're red
Yeah.
with black, and like that to me was just a fantastic touch. Like, just
Creepy.
super creepy, and like,
Whoa.
especially with all of his red hair and his little goatee, he ups the creep factor every time you notice something about him. Not to mention his just crazy personality.
Well, it kind of lent it to me for some reason. I don't know why, but like the bright blue eyes. Let's see if I can get this to focus on here. Maybe not, but the bright blue eyes of the daughter. I'm behind the right here, and how she looks so much like her mother, and their faces are so smooth and perfect, and the brilliant blue eyes. I mean, that wasn't the best picture, but throughout, there's massively brilliant blue eyes. And she's the protagonist, and yet the antagonist seems to, as Helen called out, have red eyes with black, I guess, well, red pupils with black eyes. It's really kind of, I don't know, light side, dark side, Darth Maul-ish type situation there. A little bit of black hat, white hat, Old West style villain identification, but yeah, it definitely helped me identify who the good guy and bad guy was.
Okay, so I'm going to dive in with my question then, because I feel like this is like segging into it quite nicely. So, do you feel like the bad guys are really the bad guys?
No,
By that,
I mean,
they're
they do
talking-
bad things.
They talk about, but they also talk about how the good guys, I'm going to use finger quotes there, have done some not so nice things to the bad guys as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, is there a clear, like, I mean, sure, they're depicted like you said, Val, there's some very, like, obvious, like, this is the blonde hair, blue eyed, kind of
Yeah.
depiction of, like, of a character makes you feel like they're the good guys, and then the person with red eyes is not so nice. But perhaps they're actually kind of closer to each other than you think?
Yeah,
Well, at
I
this
think so.
point, humanity is, even though they have like the so-called good guys versus the so-called bad guys, and basically the bad guys we're talking about are like the fringe. but they're still dependent on each other. Like
Mhm.
the good guys, they seem to have it all figured out, this and that, but they're suffocating. The bad guys, who don't seem to have it figured out and are just a bunch of, when you go there, it looks like a goblin market kind of thing,
Yeah.
where everyone is, doing their thing. It's the, fringe. They've got air. They're fine with air. It's other things that they need. So really, humanity is kind of, separated. You're gonna die and fall apart. You have to work together to actually survive this issue that's happening. But in general, if they don't get off the planet, they're not going to survive at all.
Right.
The planet is going to die. So,
Well, to go with your question, I think that it's just two different aspects, really. And the novel is designed to help us take the perspective of the protagonist. Um, but I don't know, like the, the the protagonist's home seems to be law and order, and nobody kills each other without consequence. It's not chaos; it's law and order, as much as it can be with the end of the world impending. And then you go to the third city, and it's kind of the opposite. It's like chaos and killing of each other, for sport, gambling, but it's the same stuff. They're all suffering, and they know the world is ending, and they've got their own mass orgy styles. But if you noticed in the home city, or the primary city, that one was all humanoid or human. It was, and they were all, handsome and pretty and so on, different ages. But then you go into the third city, and you've got your half-breeds like a merfolk, and your mechanoids, and your weird goblin-y old dudes and half-sharkmen with bowler hats.
So cute.
And I think they're more the outcasts. And I can't really say that their city, their way of living is wrong, but I seem to think that the dividing factor is their lack of respect for life by the ruling faction, where they're
yeah,
willing to, have the killing of each other and so on. I mean, it seems more like very Puritan in the home city or the primary city, and then the third city just seems so, I don't know, a bit more
but
chaotic. You can do your own thing as long as you don't kill anybody of importance, Because
but
then they're gonna kill you because you didn't do a good enough job,
that's consistent with human history.
Right.
I feel like that's definitely something that we can relate to because we've heard, I mean, it's even happening now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what this actually made me think of was like a Mad Max Fury Road sort of setup where you've got areas that are ruled by one, maybe a family or whatever, and then
Hmm.
in between everything it's just desert. Whether it's under the water or
Yep.
in the desert, it's just, because even the so-called fringe element, they had a rule for their, if they didn't have some sort of ruling party, they wouldn't have those gladiator things. No one would follow anybody. It wasn't pure anarchy there.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
so
That's true.
when I described this, I described it to one of my friends as Mad Max Fury Road mixed with Waterworld.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good way of putting it.
Two
um,
of my favorite things.
And they did actually have some laws in the third city, because I remember they had literacy was outlawed,
uh,
which obviously that outlawing literacy is like evil. I mean, and the daughter, who is enslaved by the leader, of course, points this out, and he just totally goes nuts on her. But yeah, it just shows that certain aspects of it are evil, but not necessarily the population. It's like the old saying of a few bad apples spoiling the whole bunch.
Mm.
You know, the people may not be exactly the elite of society, but they are being led and are under the rule of those that aren't exactly the best.
And do you think that the society in the third city is almost like what? Perhaps I can see how it could have started because of the way that the primary city treats them. You know, because of the things that they had to do to survive in the beginning. I mean, like you said, they were outcasts and discriminated against. So perhaps you know, they are part of the primary city's making. You know, their current society is partly, you know, due to the kind of situation that they experienced previously.
So, I've got another question.
Go
So,
for it. Maybe it's a little bit lighter than that one.
it should be. This is more a question of what do you think in the story? At the beginning, when the father is murdered by Rolm and his crew, um, and they obtain the deep suit. I can't remember what it's called, but the really spectacular special suit of invincibility-ness. Yes, that's a word. I just made it up. And they obtain it, and obviously he has the father's eye, so that he can actually end up operating it because he gets in it and starts doing his thing. At some point, he ends up getting out of it, and the eye shrivels up and dies or something like that, goes away. Can't it ends up wasting away probably after a few days. Do you think he used the suit at that time to become the ruler of the third city, or do you think he already was by the time he took the eye from the father and the suit? They seemed to have some kind of plan in mind to attack their ship when it happened, but I wasn't sure if he was actually the ruler of the city at that point, or if he was just, a man in power. Obviously, he's fairly invincible as he was, but any
Well,
thoughts?
they obviously wanted the suit because that guy was waiting there to ambush them. Unless, was it a surprise that they had one? I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
I'm trying to decide what their motivation would be to have the suit because I don't think that does Ron really need it?
He says he does. When he's trying to convince the daughter to wear it, he said that it would give them access to Slaus, and that it would give them power and control in the region.
Yeah.
So I think the suit, I think it's one of the last suits of its kind, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
And that it's coded to DNA, hence the eye taking and whatnot. And I think it is like super powerful in terms of either the weapons, as you see at the end of the book, or like mineral gathering or supply gathering or something like that.
Or maybe it's like Matrixy, where they can only get into Slaus with a suit.
Maybe.
Well, for those that are interested, I've got the image here of the suit being. That's just her getting
It's
into
called
it.
the helm.
The helm.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Quite an
I
impressive
think
piece.
he needed the suit to become the ruler of that. I think that's what he wanted. It
And then
seemed
he wanted
so
to use it to gain vengeance upon the primary city that I can never remember the name of as well.
You have the book. It's right there.
I think I actually disagree. I think he went out after the suit because he talks when he's trying to he's being a dick to the daughter right before she betrays the brother, and he's saying, we were attacked and our mother kind of sent us out in the escape pods, and um, we were barely surviving, and we found this dome, as they call the cities. Um, and they took pity on us and brought us in. And he says, as we grew, they educated us, took pity on us, taught us the power of the willing mind. How surprised they were when we opened the gates and allowed the pirate horde's entrance. I think that happened before he took the suit, because he seemed to still be in the city at that point to open the gates.
But was he ruling it once he opened the gates?
I kind of imagined that he would rule it.
Yeah, once you open the gates and let the pirate horde in, like, that's, whoever was previously ruling it is done.
The pirate hordes are, since he hasn't been around them, they may not
True.
care. Like, yeah, you let me in, but now I rule this place.
Oh, yeah.
I guess for me that just translated as he was ruling because he allowed them entrance and could control it. But I can totally see where you're coming from too.
Yeah, they definitely, I had forgotten that the other civilization that was there that was actually, it sounded very kind of scholarly and
Yeah.
almost like a monastery sort of deal, and then he comes in and they take pity on him and then kill him. Or let everybody get in.
When we first see the daughter, she's actually in a gigantic library.
And
I'm trying to find a good panel to show you.
Doesn't the father and Marek actually refer, I think at some point as well, the family refers to it as being like a city of learning, and
Yeah.
I think the father talks about, like, or maybe it's Stell talks about going there to learn, and
Oh, that the father had told her stories about the place?
yes, I remember like references to the third city, and it being like a great resource of like knowledge and documentation.
And you can kind of see it.
Yeah.
Like she's on the floating panel thing, and you can kind of see, like, there's just floors and floors and floors of books.
Illegal.
That are illegal. But apparently she gets to read them because she's...
No, the books aren't illegal, it's just who reads them.
Yeah, sure.
You have to be like, ruling elite to be able to read the books.
Yeah, I found that funny that, that was the place where he resided was in the middle of the library.
Yep.
All the knowledge for himself. All right. Well, I'm actually out of questions.
You ran out?
I did for the moment. Anybody else have any?
I think all of mine were asked.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So I have one more kind of like, I don't know, not so happy question.
Uh-oh.
It might be a bad one to finish in. So somebody better come up with one more before we sign off. But do you think, so shit going down with the Earth is kind of inevitable, right, one way or another. Do you see our future, humanity's future, in this book? And not necessarily underwater, right, but just kind of what's happened to their society. Do you see elements of our future in them?
If it involves land sharks with bowler hats, I'm all for it.
I think this one is a little different. It feels a little different to how things are now, because it appears as if the sun is expanding. That's not anything they can control. So it's like this has been done to humanity, whereas kind of our situation with global warming and stuff like that, that is humanity doing it with the planet. So it feels a little less like they are doing penance for their past acts, and rather like the planet is being destroyed and they have to survive it. Like there's less, I don't know, guilt on the side of humanity for doing these things. They're just trying to make it.
Seems like there's more guilt on their side for just not wanting to do anything anymore. You know, like they've all given up hope. Well, most of them have given up hope.
Stell's the only one left.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the novel, of course, is that she's never gives
not
up
alone.
hope. Right. All right. Well, I will ask one more question then. What's your favorite thing in the book?
Favorite
Besides
thing?
the art. Besides the art.
Well,
Clearly, the half shark guy in the boa hat. Come on.
I found him for you.
Is he adorable? Damn it, he is kind of adorable, isn't he?
I like the big heart tattoo on his.
He's got like he should have
Yeah,
more.
he's not just a humped over shark with a bowler hat, like we've been alluding to. He actually has like these little tusky bits.
And he's got like horns that go. Like you
Yeah.
see
Oh, yeah,
horns
yeah.
there?
I see him.
Yeah. He's got glasses as well.
He does.
Yes, I approve.
I think my favorite part was the exploration when Stell and Merrick
Merrick,
were basically when their ship got destroyed almost right off the bat once they left the one place and they're out in their suits and they're doing their exploratory thing. That was probably my favorite part because it was so you're seeing all these other things that were really neat and you know.
Yeah, there is. I think that has like a 2-page spread, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
A little bit of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, hold on, bring it back up.
Oh.
I was trying to find it
He's
myself.
asleep at the wheel.
It's all right.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing was the diving suits that they wear in that picture. Well, I mean more than just that picture, but like the idea of taking scuba to like a whole nother level
Yeah, no kidding.
is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I think
when
it's pretty
he was
amazing.
able to stab that guy with the
Yep.
thing, I was like, how did you even like I didn't even know you could do that with the suits.
Well, and you see, like, Merrick is preparing to, when he's trying to lead his sister out, he's preparing to stab one of the guards. Like, he's got his little hand out, and he's got the claws, and he's just, like, it's just really cool.
There we go.
Well, I think the claws make sense actually because there's so many baddies, right, in the ocean that they have to, like the radiation from the sun expansion has just mutated the crap out of all the ocean life, and suddenly they've got these mammoth things that are trying to eat them for lunch.
And
So
funny you mention that because I think that's actually my favorite part is not just the giant sea creatures, but the variety of the humanoids as well. I mean,
mutations.
yeah, just it's crazy stuff. All the different kinds of merfolk. So, I mean, not everybody had the same like tail or fin or something like that. They were just, and it was really varied. The sea life plus the humanoids in the third city. I think my favorite part was when they got to the third city, and it was just like, wow, I don't even know what the heck is going on here. This place is absolutely crazy, you know. So that was probably my favorite part was the introduction to all the new and crazy life that there was in the novel, or is in the novel. All right.
You know what it reminded me of? Sorry,
Yeah.
real quick.
No, I don't.
The Merfolk, the graphic novel The Wake,
Oh yeah.
Yes.
where humanity splits off and there's like merfolk. Well, not merfolk. That is way too gentle a designation for them. But like
Chum.
they talk about how they descended, and because they were fishing in the water all the time, their toes became webbed, and like I vividly remember reading that because it was so fascinating, and it could have actually happened. Like when you think about it in terms of evolution. So I wonder, like that just like those two things, the merfolk in Low and the crazy killer merfolk in the Wake, they kind of remind me of each other a little bit.
I
Before we
agree.
sign off, I did
Yeah.
have one question for
Yeah.
everybody. What did you think of the religious thing that Stella entered?
Oh, yeah, that's a
The
good question.
temple?
Oh, actually,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then there's the guy with the crazy,
Yeah,
like,
he's got like a weird eye.
and he's got like crazy. Is it a beard or is it his hair or both?
I think it's both.
Okay, I like
But
that guy.
he's just floating. Like they just show him floating, and Stella just chills out and has a chat with him.
And it's interesting that the one guy comments when he drops her off that nobody goes there anymore.
Yeah. Like it's such a drop in the bucket compared to the rest of the novel
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like it's easily missed. But I mean, as you can see from the 2-page spread, it's just white and gold, which is very different from the rest of the novel.
Yeah. It seemed to me to go back to what somebody said earlier, I think it was you, Kashka, a bit matrixy. Like
Yeah.
like she logged on to some kind of advice forum or something, and it just, manifested itself in the future in some old sage that floats in white light type effect. And I actually went back and read this like 2 or 3 times just because I was like, what is this pertaining to? And I was trying to find some kind of foreshadowing about it, how it tied in with it. All I could think of is that it was just an inspiration because she was having a low point and she needed to regain her own, and she was doing it through some sort of faith. That's pretty much how I was kind of trying to interpret it. But otherwise, I feel it probably could have been left out, and it wouldn't have really changed much about the
Well,
novel for me.
maybe it's coming up a bit more in future volumes, though.
Yeah.
And she's going to return to that.
I loved how he said enter the mind, and she did, and it's just white. There's just nothing. Like for me, I loved I want to say imagery, but there's not really any imagery, but I liked the connotations that it brought, that it was just this blank space, and it was for you to kind of use your mind to create what you saw and how you interpreted what was said. And like I will say that out of all of the graphic novels that I've read, I think this one has caused me the most philosophical thinking. Just some of the pages and how they talk about, like, well, it's your perception. You've got to be optimistic. You can change things with how you think, and you can change how the world sees you with, what you put out there. And it keeps, like, that thinking kept drawing me back to this 2-page spread of her with this crazy old man with hair that's a waterfall, basically, coming out of his head. But I thought it was a really interesting 2-page spread that was just, not that it didn't fit with the rest of the story, but that it was something unique within a lot of crazy, crazy things.
So, I actually,
Like an oracle.
yeah. And the whole blank space thing, the sage guy made sense and everything, but the blank space, and I agree, it does make sense. It gave off that aura, but I couldn't help, being the age I am, going back to an old film that my parents showed to me called THX 1138. And in this film, There's large blank white rooms that you can't seem to find corners or edges of that are just everywhere. A large portion of the film is in this, and that's in. It just seems so bleak and disturbing, and that's what actually was getting me was the recollection of that kind of atmosphere, and therefore I actually felt it was artificial
Mm-hmm.
when it happened, and that's why I also got the Matrix feel about it. And I understand that she just needed someone to talk to and regain her own inspiration, but for me, it was actually very unsettling. And I think because of that old imagery that I got from that film, which is a very disturbing film for anybody that does end up watching it.
I don't think it's that disturbing.
It's very disturbing. And it's a very old film.
It is. Be prepared for like several hours of complete boredom.
Yes, it took a lot of patience to watch that film, but
Wait, is it Robert Duvall? Is that his?
Robert Duvall.
No. Okay.
No.
Right. Sorry.
No.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Yes, at some point I forced Kashka to watch it. I don't know why.
I think I've watched it before then, actually, but that's fine.
I'm just gonna say
Oh,
my dad
was
forced me
it
to
like
watch
George Lucas? Isn't that why he named his sound company after it?
Yep.
Yep. THX. Yep.
THX.
Yep. Yep. So, anybody got anything else?
Hang on one sec. I'm looking at one thing because the guy in the that we were just discussing with the beard and the hair, he reminds me of somebody, but I need to look up who that person is. Sorry, my memory is like a sieve. It's the movie with James Franco, and it's like super spoofy. And it's actually I just really hated it at the time. But I've watched it again since. Damn it, I can't find it. Oh, and it's Natalie Portman as well. Oh God.
You're not talking about like the end, are you?
No, I
The
don't
one
think
about
so.
the end of the world?
No, it's James Franco is like the brother that's like really good at everything, and it's actually and Natalie Portman's like this kind of kick-ass like a stealthy thiefy person, and it's actually like
Your Highness?
yes, I think that's it. Is that it?
It's kind of like a little D&D-esque.
Yes.
Oh,
Why can't I find that in
yeah.
his filmography? Is that?
That one. So what character are you thinking of for this?
So you know the Oracle guy that that they go
Oh,
to
the
see that's
required.
actually been like kind of like sexually
Yeah,
abusing James Franco's character.
that was a puppet, wasn't it?
Yes, it totally was. But sorry, this is really inappropriate. But that's who the guy in the mind place reminds me of a tiny bit.
Uh,
Sorry, that was like a really long lead in for a ridiculously minor. I was hoping to find it so I could do that more
Reference.
smoothly, but that's fine. But yeah, there you go. That's who that guy reminds me of. So okay, so last thing then, would you guys so obviously you have Lilac and Helen, you both have volume 2. So it seems like you both quite well. I know Helen liked it, right? That's a no-brainer. But so Lilac, would you give it a thumbs up or?
for the first one
Yeah.
or the second one? I haven't read the second one yet. The
So-
first one I read all in one night and I loved it. Thought it was awesome.
Cool. What about you, Val? Do you think?
Yeah,
Thumbs up.
definitely. I mean, I made the mistake of actually stopping partway through. It actually it actually reads much better if you can sit down for a couple hours and read the whole thing. And with that, it was awesome. It was excellent. The artwork was great. The characters are fantastic. Action, the small detail, it all ties well together. Colors, you know, even the texture on the cover, as I said, really fantastic. A really good one. A thumbs up from here.
Yep, I agree. Nice pick, Helen.
Thanks.
Yes,
I'm
very
glad you
nice.
guys liked it.
On that note, next time on Mischief of Mice, we're gonna have
You need the announcer voice for that. Next time on Mischief of Mice.
we're gonna have Hawkeye.
Hawkeye.
This is my pick. It's a little bit different from our usual. It's a reboot. Took place, I think, shortly after the Avengers film started, and it's more of a mix of a few of his comics, but it's got a few different, I believe, a few different authors and a few different illustrators throughout the whole thing. But it's really good in my mind. I really, really.
I think one author and then there's a small army of illustrators.
Yeah, it does change up quite a bit, but I mean, you do have, the cover art you see there that's fairly stylized with the black, white, and the different colors of purple. You do tend to get a large portion of it, at least two-thirds of it, in a similar art style, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very varied book, and I figured I'd like to discuss that with the group and see what they think of that one. So. Hope everybody had a good time. I know I did. And I guess we'll see y'all next time. So, bye.
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 Bye.